Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha. Before we get started, I am running a test with this particular video. And due to YouTube's recent demonetizations, my channel has been smashed recently by the AI controlling the system, so I am making a few changes to support a theory. As that is the case, the video will be posted to the public as opposed to being held for the following day, as will be the standard moving forward. That said, we've seen a great many dirty devs in recent months. Some that are simply shady asset flippers, some who are abusive to their customers, and some that have even gone so far as to threaten legal action against their customers when faced with fair and reasoned criticism. Each of them has earned their place of dishonor in the not-so-hallowed halls of the dirty devs alongside Silicon Echo, Berdiev of BC Interactive, Dentola Studios, and Andrew Watt, to name but a few. However, I never thought I would see the day when a quote-unquote dirty dev managed to claw their way out of the doldrums of disgust to be elevated to soaring heights like a beautiful butterfly bursting forth from a gray crap-covered cocoon. Of course, that is far too flowery of a description, but you get the idea. The game on your screen now is called Devoid of Shadows, as those of you with a discerning eye will already be able to tell judging from the title of this video. I covered an incident involving the developers of this game back in July of this year. The situation surrounded some players of the game being rather critical over the English translation of the game, as it felt to some that the developers might have relied on Google Translate, a not uncommon practice for smaller developers unable to afford a professional interpreter. And when I came across the situation and read the forum threads for myself, I was surprised to actually see events take the highly combative turn that they did. The conversations started off simply enough, with the developers of the game doing their best to respond to the criticism, and they seemed to be gathering information on what appeared to be a desire to make sure they knew where the mistakes were and what they were so they could be corrected appropriately. That was until several hours later when the same account took on a drastically different tone, and it was readily apparent that the interpreter had woken up and was now responding through the developer's communal account. The interpreter immediately set upon the players who were critical of the translations, demanding that people provide their credentials to qualify them as an interpreter more qualified than them, and also stated that if they were not able to present a prima facie case, then they would be sued. And you can definitely tell the difference in tone between the two people involved. Let's look at the statement made at 4:40 a.m. on July 19th, where the Ars Logica account said the following. We wanted to assure you that we did not use Google Translation, and could you please specify which part is exactly wrong at your point? Can you give examples of the wrong translation or incorrect grammar or terminology? We need to know exactly what you mean by claiming that English version is incorrect. And then we have the same developer account 5.5 hours later post this statement responding to the first. Hello, I am a part of the Devoid of Shadows team, and I am a professional translator having many years of experience. My name is listed in the credits, see the section of the English localization. I am responsible for my work, and any further attacks on the quality of the English translation, especially from the non-speakers who made several egregious grammatical mistakes in one sentence, are considered as entrapment unless you prove that you know both languages, original and English, and provide your own interpretation of the English text. If you fail to establish a prima facie case, we shall hold you responsible for any damage the company suffers as a result of your claims, emotional injuries, and other degrading measures. And while this person didn't come out right and say, I will sue you if you continue to besmirch my work, it was at the very least extremely heavily implied on top of the statement as a whole being completely and utterly insane. So I posted a video to warn people that this would be how they could expect to be treated if they dare criticize the translator. And while it would be impossible to carry out such a threat, people don't often take kindly to having to deal with empty threats from a developer of a small RPG title when there are so many other games out there for them to try. However, the developers stepped in and informed their customers that they had fired their translator over their previous threat made against their customers. And as these developers were seeming to try and make things right, I was willing to leave well enough alone, and I had even gone so far as to say that Devoid of Shadows, while I felt it was overpriced for what was on offer, at least contained within it some potential. I also said that I would be watching, and so I have. And what have we seen in the meantime? Well, first off, the developers have continued with their positive interactions with their community, and I've seen nothing to indicate any further trouble on that front. In addition to that, the developers have taken criticisms leveraged against the game to heart and have used those critiques to further improve their game. And if that weren't enough, the developers decreased the sale price of the game permanently from the $15 it was originally to now selling for $9. And while this might feel slightly unfair to those who originally purchased the game at its original sale price of $15, I personally feel that the current price point is more in line with both the quality and amount of content we see within the game. And I did give the game another look after the recent patch released for the game, and I do have to say it is a dramatic improvement in multiple ways. The English translation feels tighter and more natural. The gameplay has such a decrease in bugs as to be nearly unnoticeable at this point compared to how it was originally, and it is just an overall better game than it was a few months ago. But it is most definitely not a perfect game. There are a very large number of quality of life improvements that could be made to the game's interface, and the sound that accompanies every menu button press really wears on you after a while, and the sound itself just feels out of place and not in keeping with the tone of the game. It's also a touch too loud. Now, I would replace it with a simpler click sound that, while it might be more generic, would be far less intrusive. In addition, I would just do more with it all. But at the same time, I felt I had to rein myself in a little bit on the levels of expectation and remember that we are dealing with a sub-$10 game here, and I should not set my sights on $30 levels of gameplay, interface, and graphics. Now, what we have here now for the price point offered is still pretty solid. While not exceptional, I feel it is now good enough to actually warrant a look at, and as such I will, again for the first time ever on my channel, be changing my Steam review from a negative to a positive one. And if you are a fan of smaller startup level indie RPGs, Devoid of Shadows, while still pretty basic, does have a decent amount going for it. Now, on top of that, to not only resolve the previous issues with the translator, but to do a complete about-face, not only in terms of relations with their customers, but in terms of realizing mistakes made on multiple levels and actively fixing the vast majority of them satisfactorily, is one of the reasons that I am proud to give a hand up to Ars Logica and In-Game Studios out of the doldrums of the Dirty Devs catacombs, and I will treat them as developers that are worthy of my time and my money. And if you might be interested in the game, why not give it a try? These developers have taken their lumps and have come out the other side the better for it, and in this scenario, we have a situation where the developers and their customers win, and that makes this a pretty great day. But as always, don't forget to let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you would like to stay up to date with my videos by gaining access to them a day early, then you can do so by supporting the channel on Patreon. Even $1 will grant you access to all videos as they are completed, and will also grant you access to the Patreon-only areas of our Discord server, and also access to the monthly AMA livestream. If you would like a little bit of extra recognition, we do have the $20 and up club, which guarantees that you will be recognized in the description of my videos. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I'll see you next time.